All right, we're here with Mary Bell from the Wisconsin Education Association Council. Thank you for appearing on the Uptake. And, well, what's happening on Wisconsin State Capitol Square right now?
Well, right now we are packed up from our Walkerville strategy, which was to call attention to what was going on with the state budget in Wisconsin, all the damaging cuts for working families across the state of Wisconsin, some lasting damage. But with the budget having passed on Thursday night, we have now gone full scale into the Senate recalls throughout the state, 9 different Senate districts, 6 Republican clawbacks, 3 protecting our Democratic senators who stood up for the people of Wisconsin.
6 Republican senators are up for recall, 3 Democratic senators up for recall.
Exactly. Yes. We have 6 Republican senators who decided to stand with a national agenda rather than the people of their district. In each case, we have some dynamic leadership on the Democratic side to try and take back the Senate and to restore some balance. With the Supreme Court decision that we had on Tuesday afternoon, it became very clear that Wisconsin no longer has 3 branches of government. We have one that seeks to speak for one single voice and not for the people of Wisconsin.
Let's focus on those 6 Senate recall races for a second. Or there are 9 actually, but 6 are targeting Republican senators. Do you know where in the state they are?
Oh, absolutely. They actually span the state. We have one not far from here in Minneapolis that's in the Sheila Harsdorf district, right around River Falls. That is one where we have a great candidate, Shelley Moore, who's one of my own members, a teacher from Ellsworth. She's been a resident of that district for years and really understands the importance of standing up for a farm community, for small business, for the kind of economy that's going to help that area be very, very strong. Go down the river just a little bit to the La Crosse area, and you have Dan Kapanke's district, where we have Jen Schilling, currently a state representative from that area, who is just a dynamic candidate and who understands that the economy of that region also depends on a vibrant farm economy, and what that this budget has done in terms of stripping education and really community support dollars is going to damage that district irrevocably. Move to the center of the state a little bit and you've got Luther Olson's district. Senator Olson was a former school board member. He understands probably better than anyone else in the Senate what the effect of these cuts are, and he voted to stand with the national agenda instead of the people. In that case, we have Fred Clark, who's a current representative, who's running against Senator Olson. Fred Clark understands his district. He understands that choices that are made in the environment are extremely important, and his record of standing up for the environment in central Wisconsin is absolutely crystal clear. If you go across the way to Senator Cole's district up in the Green Bay area, Senator Coles, again, should understand how desperately the people of Wisconsin need to have support for their public schools. He represents around the Green Bay area. Very, very clear. He needs to support that. He did not stand with that. We have Nancy Nussbaum running against Senator Coles, and she is a dynamic candidate, a proven leader and a county leader in the past. We also have Senator Dave Hansen, just south of Senator Cole's district. Dave Hansen has been a phenomenal Democratic leader. He's not one of the Republican recalls. He's one of our Democratic protects, because he knew what he could do was to leave the state temporarily and let the people of Wisconsin understand what this budget said. Move south a little bit, we get to Alberta Darling's district. That's a Republican clawback. Alberta Darling should understand, she sat on the Senate Education Committee enough, she's currently a member of that committee, should understand exactly what these budget cuts mean. She chose to stand with the national agenda, and in fact had the temerity to say we should be grateful for what she has done in this budget fight. She clearly does not understand what her district needs or what the people of Wisconsin want. We have, let me see, how many do I have now?
I think that was 5.
5?
One more Republican.
All right, there is one more Republican, and I'm going to get to that. Let me see.
That's okay. We can come back to it if you like.
Good.
When the uptake was in Madison, live streaming in mid-February and also in mid-March from the Capitol, right around the time that the State Assembly and the State Senate, the Fitzgerald brothers, with of course Walker's push, passed this legislation, the anti-collective bargaining legislation, there was a lot of talk in knowing that all the attention would at some point die down from the Capitol, all the kids sleeping in the Capitol would leave, and you wouldn't have 150,000 people on the Capitol grounds every Saturday. That was an impossible to sustain. But there was a lot of talk of, okay, what happens next? There was all the effort put into the Kloppenburg versus Prosser Supreme Court race, which Kloppenburg lost.
Incredible effort. We were so pleased that in the span of 5 weeks, literally 5 weeks, we went from a candidate who was down 3-1 to one that made it not only competitive, but so close that we nearly took back that Supreme Court seat. And we couldn't help but think on Tuesday afternoon when the decision was reached, what a difference it would have made had we gotten that last push through. Well, we have until the Senate recall elections are held, primaries in July, and then the finals in August, to really deliver that message and deliver on those votes in these districts. We can make this difference.
So the energy, obviously went from the supporting Kloppenburg to the Senate, the recalling the senators. That's where all this energy harnessed in February, March is going. What happens after the recall elections? All this energy that you've built up in the labor movement in Wisconsin and really far beyond Wisconsin, what happens to that energy so it doesn't dissipate?
Well, we are absolutely committed to making sure people understand that it isn't just a Wisconsin effort. This effort needs to go across the country because the agenda that brought it to us in Wisconsin is a national agenda. This is the Koch brothers. This is ALEC. This is a group of people who are bringing this to New Jersey, to Florida, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Minnesota. And it takes different forms in different states, but it is the same agenda, and that is to take the voice away from real working people, to damage the middle class to benefit the very select few, and that has to stop. We can't just end with the recall elections because the policies that they've put in place in Wisconsin are really going to need to be clawed back one piece at a time. And the Senate recalls give us the energy to move to the next step. Wherever we see that opportunity to be, that's where we will be.
Have we seen polling numbers? How likely is it that several, if not a majority, of those 6 Republican senators might be recalled?
We are just delighted with the polling numbers that we see.
What are they?
I can't talk specifically about what they are. That is under campaign laws.
Those are internal polls?
Exactly. Those are internal polls for our. But we are very excited by the enthusiasm that we see in the district, by the volunteers who are turning out for these candidates, and by the response we see in the polls from the electorate. They understand that what's happened here is a violation of basic fairness, and that is not a Wisconsin value. That violation is really offended people, and they are ready to stand up and say that these people need to be replaced.
I mean, I suppose in terms of external polls, there have been numbers showing that were Governor Scott Walker to rerun for governor now, I think he'd get only in the mid-40s in terms of percentage, right?
Well, yeah, his popularity numbers and the polling numbers are down, and we know that you have to be very careful using those, but it is a reflection of how unpopular and how unfair they see the agenda that he has pushed becoming.
What was it like to have the whole progressive movement all of a sudden camping out in your backyard for Madison to become ground zero, so to speak?
125,000 of my closest friends. It was delightful. And the best part about what we saw, although the cause was just heartbreaking because we knew what was at stake, the best part of it was invitational from start to finish. There were families, children, dogs. Everyone came because they felt welcome. They felt that it was important, and they felt that within that time they could be heard, and then they took that energy out across the state. The best part was it wasn't just demonstrations in Madison. It was demonstrations in River Falls and Platteville and Green Bay and Rhinelander and Rice Lake, all of the places that we know the real Wisconsinites live, work, and try to raise a family and try to support themselves in a Wisconsin tradition. That's what's at risk. That's what they'll stand up for.
Tell us what Walkerville is, the creative impulse for that.
Well, the links, the parallels to the policies that brought on the Great Depression and the policies that we see these very extreme legislators putting into place in Wisconsin are just immeasurable. You can tell. We were in Walkerville, a tent city outside the Capitol, not because we had to be, but because we wanted to make it clear that there were people who were going to be disadvantaged to the point that they are going to lose their homes, they are going to lose their property, they are going to lose the value that they have rooted in the state of Wisconsin if we don't turn this around.
It's a play off Hooverville, right?
Absolutely, a playoff of the policies of President Hoover that it directly led to the Great Depression. And we want this to stop before we get there. We want Wisconsin to turn back and to really listen to what its people need and what policies we need. And particularly from my perspective, the investments, the traditional investments the state of Wisconsin has made in public education and what they have meant in terms of a strong, vibrant economy and a citizenry that understands how important 3 branches of government, how important all of those things are to our economy.
Maribel, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I wish I could remember the 6th recall district, and I know I will as soon as we finish with this interview, but I'll tell you, all of them are just extraordinary races, and we are going to be successful in taking back the Senate.
What's the date for those elections, and was it 4 or 5 Senate seats you need to take back?
We need to take 3 Senate seats and protect all of the 3 Democratic recalls. We have primaries in all of the 6 Republican recall districts on July 12th. And an election on the 19th, and then in August, the final elections will be held.
And when could a recall campaign against Scott Walker begin?
Well, the earliest date that you can collect signatures really begins on November 3rd, but given the timetables around those, I think it's likely that the recalls on Governor Walker won't start until January, when we have a more extended period in which to collect signatures. Although the people that are collecting early promises to sign are very encouraged by the kinds of response that they've gotten.
Who might run against him? Who are the emerging leaders in this movement in the state?
Well, the picture is a little cloudy in terms of that, but we have incredible candidates who are going to be ready to do this. Senator Feingold, who has a tremendous following within the state, is still considering whether he wants to run for the U.S. Senate, for the seat that Herb Kohl will be vacating, or whether he's decided a role for governor or the life of an academic for him. But we have incredible leadership in our congressional delegation, Gwen Moore, Ron Kine, Tammy Baldwin, all of whom are considering what their futures might be, either in the state of Wisconsin or in the U.S. Congress.
Senator Feingold, at least this is my opinion, but when we were there in February and March, Senator Feingold wasn't playing as big of a role as I thought he might. I thought he might be out there with a bullhorn every day. He was out a couple times during the rallies, but was he more involved behind the scenes? And I'm assuming that you've had some contact with him.
Well, Senator Feingold was definitely with us and supported us to the degree that he could. He had other commitments that he had to meet for most of that. He has been with us several times in the short span that Walkerville was up and running, and an outspoken advocate for families and workers across the state of Wisconsin. He gave an incredibly stirring speech last weekend when he came on Sunday to talk about what the role of unions and working class, middle class families really were.
Maribel, thank you so much for appearing on the Uptake.
Thank you very much.